I think the best entrepreneurs are good at building the whole thing. They're not necessarily, you only see the highlights, but you don't see the work, the grind, the years, the consistency that goes into it. It's not the best product that wins, it's the best sold product that wins.
Entrepreneurs are so critical to company success.
There is going to be times where you're just grinding. You finally got a couple employees and they're doing really awesome. Welcome to the Takeover with Tim and Cindy, where we show you how to dominate every area of life and business. Let's get winning.
Welcome back to the Takeover with Tim and Cindy. In today's episode, we are going to dissect the truth about entrepreneurship. What is the reality of building a business, starting a business, the ins and outs, ups and downs, the reality? We're bringing you behind the curtain of what it really takes and what it really means to be an entrepreneur and to build a business. In society today, there is a lot of buzz around entrepreneurship. We see social media images of people on their laptops, working, living the life, living the dream life. And I think for a lot of people, they can want to be an entrepreneur because of what society paints as like the ideal picture of what you should be doing, running a business, starting a business, having a side hustle. So our goal today with this episode is to reveal what it's really like to run a business, the myths around entrepreneurship, the realities around entrepreneurship, so that if this is a path that you are wanting to go down and wanting to take, you are informed and you have information around the realities of entrepreneurship. We're holding nothing back in this episode, but also if you are an entrepreneur and you are already on this journey, I think it's also helpful to just know that there's other people that are going through similar struggles. I know for us, when we talk to other entrepreneurs, it's like, oh, there's other crazies.
We're not the only
We're
ones.
not alone. We're not alone. So we hope that you find that camaraderie and that comfort in knowing that other people are facing maybe similar challenges and struggles too. So with that said, Tim, let's get into the myths around entrepreneurship. What do you think are some myths around being an entrepreneur?
One myth is going to be, just because you're good at a job and you do really well for the company you work for, doesn't mean you're going to do good as an entrepreneur. Like, you could be the best coder, web developer. You could be the best marketing person at your company. That doesn't mean you're going to make a great entrepreneur. So I think being really good at a technical skill doesn't mean that you're going to be good at running a business. And I think a great example is Richard Branson. He's not a person that's great at any one like technical skill, but he is really good at finding and developing the right people. And so I think the best entrepreneurs are good at building the whole thing. They don't necessarily have to have a technical skill, though there are some that they're exceptionally talented, like an Elon Musk, at certain technical skills.
Yeah.
But I think the technical skill is nice to have, but it doesn't qualify you for being an entrepreneur. Another myth would be definitely that it's time and money freedom, which it will create that eventually if you stick with it long enough, but you're going to sacrifice a lot of time and a lot of money to get there. I think just other myths around it is that it's I think just like what you see on media, like this fun, you're just partying, it's this party lifestyle and you do this and it's this creative thing. And really there's a lot of boring to it. There's a lot of doing things you don't mundane, being consistent. It's like, if you watch any great athlete, you watch them when they're playing the game, which is the highlight reels, right? Mm-hmm. But you're not seeing the Kobe Bryants at 3 a.m. practicing his dribble.
Yeah.
And I think that's what entrepreneurship is like, very, very related to athletes, is you only see the highlights, but you don't see the work, the grind, the years, the consistency that goes into it. Yeah. And so I think those are some of the common myths, and there are some more, and I'm sure we'll uncover them as we go through here, but those are some that stick out to me.
Yeah. I think another myth that I see around entrepreneurship is if you build it, they will come. So it's like the business plan, right? Oh. Write out your business plan, map everything out. What is the mission that you have for this? What are the different potential customers you can get? I mean, the entire business plan. And people spend months building out this document of like, this is the business that I'm going to build. And they potentially build it after spending all that time building a business plan, but it doesn't guarantee that they're going to get customers or that the market's going to want what they're offering. So that's a huge myth around entrepreneurship. Build the business and they will come. The reality is that it does take a lot of effort on the back end after you build something to get customers, to get paying customers and clients in the door. You and I really are like ready, fire, aim when it comes to business, where it's like, we'll test something, put it out in the market and see what people like versus don't like, versus building this entire business and the service and an idea on what we think people will like. And then if you put it out and they actually don't end up liking it.
Yeah. Big time. So there's this movie, if it's an old movie that Kevin Costner was in, and it's called Field of Dreams. And so in this movie, Kevin Costner gets this vision of like building a baseball field in this cornfield, and he builds it. And then I think like all these like Hall of Famers from back in the day, like Babe Ruth and all these, I don't know. I don't remember the movie a ton, but it was like they all came and they started playing. And that myth of if you build a company, they will come. If I just build the best company, if I just write the best book, if I just build the best app, they'll come. And the reality is it's not the best app that sells. It's not the best book that sells. It's the best sold book that sells. It's not the best product that wins. It's the best sold product that wins. And so the best thing to do to actually build the best product is to go build something good enough to sell, sell it, get really good at selling it, because when people, what is sells, but making a promise that's so enticing, people will buy it. And what is good fulfillment? It is making good on that promise.
Yeah.
You don't even have to go above and beyond. You just have to do what the thing says to do with good customer service.
Meet the expectation.
Meet the expectation. And so I think the best way to build a company is to actually, if you have an idea, step one, get it good enough that like you could sell it, but it not perfect. Go sell it, and then go get real life feedback from customers, deliver the product. They're going to tell you, because they're paying money, they're going to tell you what they like and don't like better than any case study or survey is going to do. And then you make the product better with the client. And so that's a really common myth. And I think something naturally I've done is just good enough and then go sell it. But it's one of the biggest things that we have to reframe newer entrepreneurs on is that if you wait till your product's perfect and then sell it, number one, somebody else is going to beat you to marketplace. And number two, you're going to spend 6 months building something that you realize your customers didn't really like.
They probably didn't want, didn't like that. The power of getting feedback. So get rid of your business plan. Just go straight out into the market, sell it, minimum viable product, sell it, and then get feedback. Get live feedback from your customers, because they're going to tell you exactly what they like about it and what they don't like, which is the best kind of feedback that you can get. Another myth I think that comes up quite a lot with entrepreneurs that I speak to is like building a business around your passion. Like, I'm so passionate about this one thing. You kind of spoke about this. Maybe you're really good at that technical expertise and you have that and you're like, I'm just going to build a business because I'm super passionate about this one thing. Why do you feel like that's not a good approach to take?
So, I mean, there's two reasons. There's two reasons. Number one is great entrepreneurs are passionate about building of the business. They're passionate about the strategy, the client acquisition.
And I think even solving a need.
They're passionate about like, oh, I see this problem that needs to be solved. And then, and they get passionate about like, here's how we're going to solve that problem. Here's how we're going to reach the market. You look at it like overall, like really good entrepreneurs, so they get excited about like the building of the business and then finding the right people to help like build a company. So this is one reason. Like, so if you're just passionate about the technical role that you fulfill, maybe you're at a job now, or maybe you're a really good web designer or copywriter or whatever that skill is that you fill. If you're really passionate about that, if you go out and try to build a business around that, you're going to realize you just went from being really good at one job to being horrible at like 20 jobs. Yeah. And as an entrepreneur, you have to be good at a lot of jobs. I was just talking to, I met a guy up in Tampa and he's exited his company for $300 million. And I said, well, what for you, where was your biggest strength? Was it the sales? Was it the marketing? Was it being good at the technical piece of it? He's like, dude, Tim, I had to be good at all of them to build this company where it, and so I think if you're just really good at one thing and then you go start a business, you're going to realize you went from being really good at one thing to being really bad at like 15 things.
Yeah.
Which it takes to run a company.
Exactly. Like, passion alone is not enough to build, grow, and sustain a business. There are multiple skills that you need to have, right? As an entrepreneur, you're not just going to have the luxury of just focusing on that one area of expertise that you're super passionate about or that you love. You're going to have to get really good at multiple things in order to grow and sustain.
Yep. And that one thing that you love, you're probably going to hate if that's like, you're like, why did it, it's like there was a lady that we met when we were on a trip to the British Virgin Islands. There was and she was an artist. And she loved doing art, and she said every time she would make it into a business, it always was difficult for her because now she had clients, now she had to do this. It was like she lost her passion for the actual art. I had a friend that was a chainsaw wood carver, and he would do those big bears, and people pay thousands and thousands of dollars for it, and he was really good at it. But he said when you turned your hobby into a job or started selling, it became a job, so you like lost that passion and for it. And so your passion has to be around building the business, solving the need, solving the problem, because you're going to have a lot more jobs than just that one. And if you're a good entrepreneur, even that technical skill, you want to get to a point where you can outsource that.
Yeah.
So that you could have a business that runs without you, right? So that you could actually we just took a week off, and all of our operations was running great because we had a great leadership team. Our sales team was closing more deals than when we were there at home. And that only happens when you're passionate about building the business that can, the systems, not passionate about just the technical skill. Because if you're passionate about just the technical skill, number one, you're going to get sick of that technical skill. You're going to get burned out. You're not going to like it anymore. And number two, even if you build your whole business around that technical skill, now it's going to be relying on you doing that thing, and you're never going to be able to take a break.
Yeah. So that entrepreneurship is the difference between like being able to separate what you're passionate about from how do I solve a need and build the business in order to solve a need. And it's discerning the difference between the two and where does that lie for you, right? Does it mean that you should build a business and start a business and run it? Or does it mean that you should go and be like the technical person or the person that can fulfill on that one thing, which very often sometimes it's like the best option to go is to just go work for a company where you can solely focus on that one thing, get really good at it, do what you're passionate about every single day. We have a lot of intrapreneurs in our company as well, but doesn't necessarily mean that they have to go and start their own thing. They actually find a lot more fulfillment being inside a company so they can focus on their area of expertise and they don't have to focus on the 12 or 15 other jobs that entrepreneurs really have to focus on in building a business.
Yeah, and I love that. So on that, if you're listening to this and you have that little bit of an entrepreneurial drive and you've got creativity ideas and you've got different innovations you want to do, but you're kind of like, I don't want to do the 15 jobs. I don't want to take a pay cut for the next 3 years. I don't want to be working 80-hour weeks for, as long as it takes to grow the company. But you've got some kind of entrepreneurial spirit. You are willing to put the extra hour. Maybe you're an intrapreneur, and that's okay. Like, we have some really incredible intrapreneurs at our company. Yeah. And they've been vital to the growth of our company. And so if you are an intrapreneur, like you have creative ideas, you are willing to put the extra hours in, but you don't want to do the whole business thing, find a good startup. Yeah. Like, find a good business that's under 50 employees and growing fast. Something that maybe, they're around 15 employees, 20 employees, so they've got some momentum, but they're not so big that there's no room for you to grow into it. Yeah. So, that would be like a really, if you just want to punch in, punch out, that I would go more corporate route. But if you do like that idea of being the entrepreneur, but you don't want to actually run the company, it's not like a common thing you hear people talk about, like as a viable road for somebody to go down as an entrepreneur. And so I'm really glad you brought that one up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's key, right? Not everybody is born to be an entrepreneur, and that's okay. Entrepreneurs are so critical to company success and the growth potential, the monetary potential, right? What you can make as an income with an intrapreneur if you get in with the company at the right phase that is, as you mentioned, that high growth, lot of momentum. I mean, you can create an amazing lifestyle, but also as intrapreneurs, you get energized by bringing new ideas to the table, being creative. So you can actually do that within a company, and you have that security because you're not necessarily the owner or the founder. You have that job security. You're able to bring new ideas that actually get implemented, and you're able to kind of grow and make momentum in your career just by being an intrapreneur, for sure.
Yep.
One of the things that you spoke about is like wearing the 12 different hats and taking a pay cut potentially as the business is building and growing. Not a lot of people talk about that up front, right? The sacrifices that you have to make in the early stages of being an entrepreneur, of starting and running a business. What are some of those other like realities of entrepreneurship that people don't talk about, or maybe potentially people aren't aware of if they haven't been an entrepreneur or considering this route?
I came into entrepreneurship. I mean, I've been doing like little entrepreneur things ever since I was, a little kid, building, like creating bike seats, custom bike seats, as a like 12-year-old and doing different stuff in high school and college, not really building bigger entrepreneur stuff until my late 20s or early 30s. But like, so all that to say, I kind of came into the entrepreneurial world pretty like broke. So anything was great. But I've also met a lot of people along the journey that had really good corporate jobs. They're making multiple six figures, or they're making six figures, or wherever they're at. To go into entrepreneurship, if you're used to having, a nice salary, a comfortable lifestyle, where you can eat wherever you want to eat basically, and, drive a nice car and all that, that's really hard to go from working really hard in the career world to having that, to going backwards to start a company where you're going to you're probably not going to make a lot of money for a while, not that you can't make good money right off the bat, but a lot of times you're sacrificing your income. A lot of times you're sacrificing I'm going to be taking a haircut on my personal income. And there's times that, we've personally decided we got to cut back a lot of things in our personal lives, double back down into the business at this time. And I think that's really hard for people that are used to making a certain level of income. If they're switching from corporate to entrepreneurship, is they're losing health benefits, they're losing consistent income, they're going to be working more hours. And that's a really hard thing for people to, once they're used to the quote unquote good life of career, to now take the haircut where not just financial comfortability, making words up, not even just that, but like status. Like the friends that we're hanging out with, Johnny started a business. He can't come out and eat at the dinners. We can't invite him out anymore. He doesn't got he doesn't have the money. Or maybe you got to downsize the car you have. You know what I mean? It's really tough for people once they have they're comfortable. And I think that's one thing that people don't realize is that you have to be willing to go backwards for as long as it takes to make the business work. And you're not guaranteed the business is going to work, by the way.
Correct. So I think the picture is I'll have time freedom, I'll have financial freedom and all of that, but it can take a while to get to the point where you have time freedom, financial freedom, etc. You and I always say, you can work 80 hours, you pick any 80 hours that you want, right?
You have the time freedom.
You pick whichever 80 hours that you want to work. And it's not necessarily that's going to be everybody's reality, but it is for a lot of entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurship is, in one of the previous episodes, you spoke about momentum. It's it takes a while to build momentum in the business, to get consistent clients, to have a product that you can sell consistently. It takes momentum to build up, which means you are going to be sacrificing a lot up front to get to the point where the business is running and growing and sustaining, and being willing to make the sacrifices until you get to that point and even beyond. I mean, entrepreneurship is a lot of sacrifices. I think one of the very harsh realities for me was the weight and the burden of employees.
Ooh.
I love everybody on our team. Truly, I want to see every single one of them win. I want to see every person on our team hit their personal, professional, financial goals. The weight of having employees, it's a responsibility.
Yes.
I think a lot about these people are counting on us. They're counting on the salary, the income that they're getting from Pima, their families, right? The impact that they want to make on their families, their communities, etc., their livelihood. I mean, Pima is that source for them.
Their goals, their dreams, their futures.
It's a heavy weight to think about. The business has to do well because of these individuals that put in their time, their effort, their talents, right, into like pouring into the mission of the company. It's a very, very heavy weight, but it's also like very sobering, right? Like for us, this is not a lifestyle business where we're taking like 2-3 weeks off out of the month to go like sip margaritas on the beach. Like we're very sober about this mission because of the employees that we have, because of our team, because of the sacrifices that they've made. And I don't think a lot of people talk about that side to business. Like if you are going to hire employees, it's like making payroll every time that payroll needs to be run, right? Having enough money in the business to sustain payroll week over week, month over month. And those kind of things where like you potentially will take a pay cut as an entrepreneur to make sure that your employees are paid. I mean, we've done that several times, especially in growing and sustaining when we first started off, is making sure that we had enough to sustain the company. And so I think that's one of the areas that people maybe don't think about as often, but for us, we do carry that weight and that burden of our team.
Yeah, I think early on, it is more of an investment that you make where you are taking a pay cut to get talent, to develop talent. Some of that talent doesn't work out, as we were talking about in the other episode about momentum. To get your first, to really get a good base of employees, to get your first core 13, it takes a lot of energy to get there. And you are taking a pay cut in those early stages to get talent. You are taking a pay cut so you can make their payroll, and you're going to train them, you're going to develop them, and then some of them are going to leave. And that's an emotional thing where you're just like, man, I've invested so much in this person and time, and I took a pay cut, and they're demanding they're asking about pay rate, all this stuff, and you have to be willing to sow into that.
Yes.
For sure. I think early on it is that burden of that. And then I think what is cool is when you do build momentum and you do see the burden start to become less of a burden and more of a motivator. And I'll explain, we know all of our team's personal, professional, financial goals because the vision of our company is for our company to be a vehicle for all of our teammates to hit their personal, their professional, and financial goals.
Yeah.
And so the days that I don't feel like getting up, the days I don't feel like doing things, I remember the goals of our sales team. I remember the goals of our leadership team. I remember the goals of the people that have been here with us for years, building this thing when we only had 5 employees, and they're still here, and knowing their goals and their dreams and their, like, now it is a weight, but the weight of responsibility is also a motivator now. So
positive. I love that.
Early on, it will be a seeming burden, but as you continue to sow and as you do turn through different employees and then you start finding your core team, it actually becomes a motivator. That's I think for us is like we're really highly motivated by our personal goals. But I feel like those things really do also motivate us.
Oh, absolutely.
Sometimes more.
Even more. Yeah. I think even more than our own personal goals.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That weight evolves into being a positive thing, I would say. But at first, you're going to sacrifice a lot of your personal income to build that core team. I mean, a lot of your time, energy, emotion, just your emotional energy gets sucked during that process.
Yes, for sure. That's the reality of entrepreneurship. Another reality is the loneliness. I think you and I have the benefit of building this together, which is beautiful and it's awesome. But not a lot of people have a partner, right, to do it with. There's a lot of solo entrepreneurs, solo visionaries, solo CEOs that are, running this business on their own. Maybe their partner is working a corporate job. Maybe their partner, like their spouse rather, has another business that they're running. So you see a lot of solo entrepreneurs. Maybe let's talk about what are some of the realities around being like a solo entrepreneur and the loneliness that can come with that as well.
Well, if anybody knows our story, Cindy and I, we started this business together, but I had been running businesses before, and you have to definitely find the right people to be around. Like if you can make sure you're around a network of other entrepreneurs early on, that's going to help with that one a lot. So I'm going to pre-give some tips on this
for sure,
because entrepreneurship was lonely for me at a lot of points, but it doesn't have to be. At first, if you're a solopreneur, you need to make sure you have some other entrepreneurs that are at where you're at or beyond where you're at. What I would actually suggest doing is paying for mentors, paying to be in groups and communities of entrepreneurs that are beyond where you're at.
Yeah.
However, there is going to be times where you're just grinding. You finally got a couple employees and they're doing really awesome. And then you've sewed into them and now it feels like things are running well. And then they have a personal matter happen in their life and they quit. And now you're right back to where you start. You feel like you're back at the beginning, back at ground zero, back in that role again, all by yourself. And it's like, dang it. I've been at this for a year and I thought I was going to take it to the next level. Now I'm back to ground zero all by myself. This company's, so there is going to be those moments. There doesn't have to be like, you don't have to live with loneliness. Like there's a lot of cool ways and a lot of like, ways to make sure you're not in that, but there's going to be times where you're just deeply lonely.
Yeah.
And because there's no one else maybe no one else in your family or in your friend circle. You should change your friend circle, by the way, if you don't have entrepreneurs in your circle, where it is going to feel lonely. You're going to feel like nobody else gets you. You're going to feel like, dang, I'm like working nonstop and there's no one else putting in the work and the effort that I'm giving. And so it will be there. But I would like to say that, as long as I dealt with that a lot, but I didn't have to. I think, getting the right mentorship, making sure you're with the right people, does help a lot.
Yeah. I want to highlight what you said about just your friend circle, because if you are an entrepreneur and the majority of your friends are working a corporate job, working jobs, maybe not entrepreneurs, when you are describing maybe some struggles that you have or challenges you're facing in business, it's very difficult to relate to people that are not on that entrepreneurial journey. It's not to say that you have to get rid of your friends, but definitely surround yourself with other entrepreneurs because the conversations you have are different. I remember once I was sitting on the balcony with another entrepreneur. She's amazing. She runs a PR company. And we were just chatting about life and business and what you feel speaking to another entrepreneur that has faced similar struggles. It's like mind-blowing. Like, oh, I'm not alone. Like, you feel like, okay, there's other people actually going through the same things as I am, and that camaraderie.
You're chatting with a long-lost sister.
Like, oh my gosh, like yes. It feels incredible. You have that connection. Like, you're not alone on this entrepreneurial journey. There are other people that face similar challenges and have overcome, and they can give you advice. So definitely surround yourself with other entrepreneurs for sure. That can be a game changer on your journey.
Yeah. Well, if you look at all the big breakthroughs in our lives, it's been paying to be in the right rooms and being intentional about our circles.
Yes, absolutely.
I think one thing too is there's going to be nights where you're going to have a lot of trouble sleeping.
That's true. That is true.
There's not one entrepreneur, like business, your idea, entrepreneurship will take you more time, money, energy than you think it will.
Than you thought,
every
for
time,
sure.
Period.
Absolutely.
Like the better and better you get at it, the faster and faster you get at it. Like, if we were to, we have a mentor that built his company very, very large. And for him to build the same company again, he could do pretty quick. The first time around took him a lot of work. So, as you figure stuff out, you do get faster at it. But it's always going to take more time, money, energy than you think every single time.
Yeah.
And just to know, along with that, there's going to be nights where you're stressed and you're wondering, like, what am I doing this right? Mm-hmm. Am I made for the, you don't want to live, yourself. You don't want to live in that, but like, just the reality is it's going to come. There's going to be nights where you are up, eyes staring at the ceiling, and like, you're going to have, I remember when, we first started running the business together and it was just, there was a lot we were dealing with. It was early 2020. The world was crazy. Business was crazy. Mm-hmm. And there was some nights that we'd have extended periods of time where we couldn't sleep more than a few hours a night just because everything that was weighing on us. And there's obviously some really good active recovery protocols that we suggest to help with that. And I think we could have done better in those times if we had those.
That, for sure.
You're still going to have those times where you're just, the weight of the world is on your shoulders.
Yes, absolutely. I think with that too, it's a difficulty of turning it off, right? When you are obsessed about building a business and entrepreneurship, and like for us, the business is the baby. It's like, it's everything to us. it's a challenge to turn it off. It's hard to talk about anything outside of the business that we're obsessed with. I mean,
Yes.
it's everything to us. On weekends, like we're intentional about, cutting off at a certain time during the day, like 7 p.m. is our cutoff time. We don't talk about work past that. And Saturday's our day off. It's our Sabbath. But even still, there is going to be a challenge to turn it off sometimes, right? And I think even more so when, say, your partner's maybe working a corporate job, is not an entrepreneur, and there's, you're doing one thing and your partner's doing another, it can be really difficult, right? Sometimes, like what Tim and I want to talk about all the time is just business, it's entrepreneurship. And I can imagine, like, if I had, a different partner, that we'd be talking about entrepreneurship, and like that's all I want to talk about, and my partner wants to talk about something else. So I think we've spoken about it before. It can be very lonely, the difficulty of turning it off sometimes as well, and the sleepless nights. Those are all like the realities of entrepreneurship. And I'm really hoping through this episode people are getting some insight into what the realities of entrepreneurship are. And I think, again, it's not that it has to be your reality, right? Or that it's going to be your reality if you are an entrepreneur. This is just some of the things that we've experienced, that we faced, and we've learned and gained wisdom and knowledge around some of these things that have helped us progress as entrepreneurs as well. So we haven't stayed stuck in the places where we've had sleepless nights, or stayed stuck in places where we worried about payroll and how we were going to make sure to pay our employees. Those are seasons of our lives. And I think with entrepreneurship, there's seasons. It comes in seasons. It goes in seasons. And I think if you can discern what season you're in, you're better able to navigate as well.
And I think what I love about sharing the realities right here is because I guarantee someone's listening to this right now in this moment that is relieved because they don't feel alone anymore. They don't feel like this challenge, this struggle, like that. Like if you're going through a challenge and a struggle with your business, your life right now, and you're like, I'm feeling that right now. Or if there's anything that you've resonated with, like, yeah, I'm dealing with that. I know for us, when we would hear other entrepreneurs that were beyond where we were at, and they would share this experience, I know for us, it was like, okay, I'm not alone.
Okay.
Because I think what you got to be really careful about in those times when it does get difficult and stressful is thinking that feeling defeated. You can't let yourself feel defeated.
Yeah.
You can't let yourself feel sorry for yourself. And you have to keep hope, because you have to keep vision, because and to hear other entrepreneurs go through the same thing, it makes you feel like, okay. And then you start listening to the stories of like all the entrepreneurs that you've looked up to, and you realize no matter how all the big wins you've seen from the outside, if you actually sit down and talk to them, like, we've had an opportunity to talk to some incredibly successful entrepreneurs, and we start talking to them about their story, and you go, oh, it's the same story of what we've gone through. And that's always encouraging to know that like other people have gone through that.
Absolutely.
That brutal, those brutal
punch
punch in the face.
Yes,
like,
for sure. The last reality that I wanted to talk about is when you start a business, you have a vision, right? This bright idea, the vision that you have for the company. Maybe it's a need that you want to solve, the problem that you want to overcome, whatever that is, you want to build this business. There can be a stark contrast between what you're seeing, your vision, and then getting people to see it, to believe it, and to buy into that vision. And I think that's a very harsh reality of entrepreneurship, is that not everybody is going to understand or even see your vision, and being able to bring people in on it, being able to sell people on your vision, and even being able to hold on to that vision when other people around you don't see it or don't even believe it.
Yeah. I think on that, there's two reasons why people aren't seeing your vision. Number one is they're not supposed to see it yet, because God's given you a gift to be able to see things in the future or see connections that others aren't yet.
That's good.
And that's good leadership. That's not your goal necessarily, to get everybody to completely be convinced and buy in to the vision right off the bat. That can be one reason. The other reason can just be that you're not doing an effective job at communicating. And so I think it is important to kind of realize, hey, is the reason why people aren't connecting with this vision, is it because they're not supposed to yet? Because my gift of this vision is to be able to see things that maybe they're not seeing yet, or is this just because I'm not being an effective communicator? So don't confuse one with the other. Make sure that you get clarity on which one is which. But, so number one, keep leveling up your ability to communicate. And I think that's, just asking questions of your team, of people around you, just seeing how they understand what you're communicating. Spend some time there. Just make sure you're up leveling your communication skills. On the other side is some people that I didn't know that one of my gifts was to have to be able to see things other people don't. Because it came easy to me to see, hey, I see an idea, make connections that other people didn't see. And so it would get frustrating when other people wouldn't see that. But what I think happens is over time, I think about a team, is if you become good at having a vision and then executing until that vision comes to pass, you start to build confidence with those around you. So now the next time, for instance, we had a marketing channel that people weren't really putting much focus on, but I kept seeing in our company, we have to get this marketing channel working. I just knew it was going to be important. It was going to be urgent. No one else was feeling the urgency, but I felt the urgency and I pushed on it, and we got it working. The marketing channel, we got it working really well. And the timing ended up being very good for our company. It made a big difference in our company. So no one really saw it at that time, but I put the emphasis on building it. But because the team saw me do that, now when I cast the next vision, I have a track record of casting success. A vision, following it through to success, and then on the other side, people seeing it come to fruition. And so now when I cast vision again, they're going to go, oh, Tim has a track record of seeing something, us not fully knowing what's going on, us building it out, getting the fruit, and then connecting the dots. And so there's going to be, at first, if you don't have that track record with people, it just be okay with, you're going to have to prove that out to people. And as you start to prove that out to people by turning your vision into a reality with your team, people will start to build confidence around that, and they'll start to trust you as a leader and a visionary. And a visionary is a true visionary is somebody that takes a vision, sees it to fruition, and then gets people around that mission and that vision.
Yeah, that's so good. So good. I think even one thing that I want to highlight in what you said is that it's, even if you're a solopreneur, right, and you have this vision, maybe you've told people about it and people aren't fully buying into it, you yourself have to be able to execute on that, take action, see a result, get success, and then that's going to bring people into that vision. So it's not just casting the vision and speaking and, oh, this is the great thing that I want to do. It's putting action behind that, because that's how you build trust. You want to have people know you as, at first, this crazy person, and then whatever, and then you do your thing until you prove yourself right. Yeah. And then everybody will see, oh, he actually did it. And then you're going to have your next crazy idea, and they're probably going to doubt you, but maybe a little less this time. And then you work on that until you actually see it to fruition. And then there'll become a point where people just know, when you say you're going to do something, you're going to do it. And that is, again, if you go back to our episode on momentum, that would be getting momentum with being a leader or being a visionary. So good. And just having vision doesn't mean anything. But casting vision and seeing it through, it means everything. Absolutely. Well, ladies and gents, I hope that you found this episode on the myths around entrepreneurship, the truths behind it, the realities of entrepreneurship. I hope that you found it useful and valuable. Our call to action on every episode is, what is that one thing you can take away of what you listened to today? One thing that's going to allow you to win in all areas of life and business. What is that one takeaway today? Maybe you are on that entrepreneurship journey and you're like, hey, this one thing resonated with me. Take action on that. Maybe you potentially want to be an entrepreneur down the line, or maybe you got a different perspective in this episode. Whatever that one thing is, write it down, take action, because the more that you can take action, the more you'll get out of these episodes. So make sure to watch the other episode that we did on momentum. It goes hand in hand with this, and we know you're going to find it so useful. So from Tim and Cindy, this is The Takeover. We'll see you soon. Stay winning.